You're listening to Just a Dude podcast with your host, Nathan. Sit back, relax, and enjoy the show. Let's roll. Yo, what's good, everybody? Welcome back to Just a Dude in the News on Just a Dude podcast. I'm your host, Nathan, just a regular guy trying to make sense of the world one news story at a time. We've got a wild week to unpack from May 30th to June 6, 2025, with some heavy hitters making waves across the United States. From trade moves to court rulings, global talks to local tragedies, and a high-profile feud, I've got the top 10 stories lined up, plus a bonus story that's got everyone talking. So grab a coffee, kick back, and let's dive into what's been going down. No fluff, just the facts, with a little bit of that Just a Dude vibe. Here we go. All right. Let's start with some big economic news on June 4th. President Trump announced he's doubling tariffs on imported steel and aluminum, jacking them from 25 to 50%. This move, which kicked in right away, is part of his push to protect American industries, particularly steel producers like U.S. Steel, which he visited in Pennsylvania on May 30th. The goal is to make foreign metals pricier, encouraging companies to buy American, but it's got folks talking about what it means for the economy, from your wallet to the global market. This isn't just about steel beams and aluminum cans. The ripple effects are hitting hard. Procter & Gamble announced on June 5th they're cutting 7,000 jobs over the next 2 years, citing higher costs from these tariffs and weaker consumer demand. Retailers like Dollar General are seeing more shoppers, even wealthier ones, as people tighten their belts. The Congressional Budget Office estimates inflation could rise by 0.4% in 2025 and 2026. Meaning your groceries and gas might cost a bit more. On the flip side, some industries are cheering. Steel stocks like Cleveland-Cliffs jumped 23% after the announcement, with others like Steel Dynamics and Nucor gaining too. The idea is that protecting local producers could keep jobs in places like Pittsburgh, but not everyone's on board. Canada's prepping possible reprisals, and the EU's working on trade talks to soften the blow. It's a high-stakes chess game, and the board's global. So what's the takeaway for this? This tariff hike's a bold play, but it's a mixed bag. It might boost American steel, but it's also shaking up supply chains and prices. Whether you're a factory worker or just grabbing a soda, you're probably going to feel this one. We'll keep an eye on how this plays out. Next up, a major policy shift. On June 4th, President Trump announced a new travel ban, set to start Monday, June 9th, barring people from 19 countries from entering the U.S. The list includes places like Afghanistan, Haiti, Iran, Libya, and Yemen. Trump's calling it a matter of national security, saying it's about protecting the country and its people. This follows his campaign promises to tighten borders, and it's got folks debating. The ban's got a broad reach, affecting travelers from these nations starting at 12:01 a.m. Monday. It's an expansion of previous restrictions, and the White House says it's based on risk assessments. But critics are raising concerns about its impact, especially on communities like global LGBTQ+ advocates attending World Pride in D.C., who are now dealing with extra travel anxiety. The policy's also stirring questions about how it'll affect families, businesses, and international relations. Reactions are mixed. Some see it as a necessary step for security, pointing to the administration's argument that it's about keeping threats at bay. Others argue it's too sweeping, potentially alienating allies and affecting people who pose no risk. The timing's notable too, with Trump meeting world leaders like Germany's Chancellor Friedrich Merz this week, where trade and security are hot topics. Those talks might shed light on how global partners react. For now, the ban's set to roll out, and it's shaping conversations about immigration and safety. Whether you're at the airport or watching from afar, this one's going to have an impact. We'll see how it unfolds as the week goes on and what it means for travelers and diplomacy. Let's head over to the courts. The Supreme Court's in the spotlight as it gears up to drop a slew of decisions this month. On June 4th, reports said the court's entering its busiest period, with opinions expected as early as June 5th. Two hot-button issues on the docket: birthright citizenship and transgender rights. These rulings could reshape some core legal and social frameworks, so all eyes are on D.C. The birthright citizenship case is digging into the 14th Amendment, which grants citizenship to anyone born on U.S. soil. It's a debate that's been simmering for years, with some arguing it's time to rethink how it's applied, especially in cases involving undocumented parents. On the other side, defenders say it's a bedrock of American identity. The court's decision could affect millions and set a precedent for decades to come. Then there's the transgender rights case, looking at issues like access to health care and legal protections. This one's got advocates on both sides fired up, with some pushing for equal treatment and others raising concerns about privacy and policy. The court's been tight-lipped, but the decision's expected by late June or early July, and the stakes are high. These rulings could influence everything from school policies to workplace rules. For now, we're in a wait-and-see mode. Time to switch back to the economy again. On June 4th, Reuters reported that the U.S. services sector, a huge chunk of the economy, contracted in May for the first time in nearly a year. The Institute for Supply Management Services, PMI, dropped to 49.9, down from 51.6 in April. Anything below 50 means contraction, and this was lower than the 52 economists expected. It's a sign things might be slowing down. What's driving this? Higher prices for inputs are hitting businesses hard, and those Trump tariffs we talked about earlier aren't helping. Retailers, airlines, and auto manufacturers are feeling the pinch, with some pulling back on financial forecasts for this year. The report also noted that consumer sentiment's taking a hit, with folks tightening their wallets as costs rise. Even discount chains like Dollar General are seeing more traffic as people hunt for deals. This contraction's raising red flags about stagflation, that nasty combo of slow growth and high inflation. The Congressional Budget Office already warned that tariffs could push prices up, and this PMI dip seems to back that up. Businesses are paying more for materials, and those costs are trickling down to the consumers. It's not all doom and gloom, but it's a wake-up call that the economy's on shaky grounds. For the average person, this might mean pricier services from flights to haircuts. The big question is whether this is a blip or the start of a trend. Economists are watching closely, and so should we. Keep an eye on your budget, folks, and let's see where this goes. Now, for a heavier topic. On June 2nd, Fox News reported a rise in anti-Semitic incidents across the U.S. in 2025, tied to ongoing Israel-Hamas conflict. A tragic example hit the news over the weekend in Boulder, Colorado, where a man lit opponents on fire, screaming for the rights of Palestine. This comes after a May 21st incident where two Israeli embassy staffers, Yaron Lischinski and Sarah Lynn Milgren, were killed leaving an event in D.C. The Boulder case involves a suspect, Badis Mohammed Ahmed Bajou, arrested on a $10 million bond. Authorities are digging into whether it was a hate-motivated attack. Meanwhile, the D.C. shooting shook the community, with the victims described as a couple set to be engaged. These incidents are part of a broader uptick in anti-Semitic attacks and protests, with tensions flaring at places like MIT, where students walked out over related debates. The rise is sparking concern nationwide. Community leaders are calling for stronger protections, while law enforcement stepping up investigations. The Israel-Hamas war is fueling a lot of this, with protests and counter-protests adding to the heat. It's a tough time for many, and the conversation's only getting louder about how to address hate and keep people safe. For now, cities are on alert and communities are rallying for unity. If you're out there, stay vigilant and look out for each other. This is a story we'll keep following as authorities and advocates work to tackle the root causes and keep the peace. Let's shift to international diplomacy. On June 5th, President Trump kicked off a busy month of meetings with a sit-down in the Oval Office with Germany's new chancellor. The Washington Post called it the start of an ally-filled June, with Trump hosting leaders from friendly democracies. Merz came prepared, having huddled with folks like the UK's Keir Starmer and France's Emmanuel Macron to prep for the meeting. The focus? Trade, security, and cooperation. Merz signaled Germany's ready to boost its defense spending, a move that aligns with Trump's push for NATO allies to step up. With the new tariffs and travel ban in play, these talks are a chance to smooth over tensions and find common ground. Diplomats say these meetings can be tricky, with Trump's style sometimes catching leaders off guard, but Merz seemed ready. This meeting's part of a bigger picture. The U.S. is navigating a tense global stage, from trade wars to conflicts like Russia-Ukraine and Israel-Hamas. Leaders are watching how Trump's policies shape alliances, especially with economic moves like the steel tariffs stirring the pot. For now, it's about building bridges, but the world's keeping a close eye on how these talks shake out. For us at home, This matters because global relationships affect everything from gas prices to national security. More leaders are lined up to meet Trump soon, so we'll see how these chats shape the months ahead. Stay tuned for more on the diplomatic front. Moving overseas, the Russia Ukraine war is still a major story. On June 2nd, the New York Times reported that ceasefire talks in Istanbul didn't make much headway. The one solid outcome was an agreement to exchange 1,000 prisoners each, including gravely ill and wounded soldiers under 25, plus 6,000 bodies of fallen troops. But on ending the fighting, not much progress there. Ukraine's defense minister, Rustem Umerov, led their delegation and said they're hoping to meet again before July. President Zelensky's been vocal about needing more support while Russia's pushing its own terms. The talks come after a tough week, with a train derailment in Russia on May 31st killing 7 and injuring 30, with some tie to the conflict spillover. This war's been grinding on for over 3 years now, and it's a messy situation with global stakes. The U.S. and its allies are watching closely, especially with Trump's recent diplomatic moves. The prisoner swap's a small step, but the lack of a ceasefire deal means the fighting is not slowing down anytime soon. It's a reminder of how interconnected our world is, with effects rippling from Kiev to Kansas. For now, both sides are digging in, and the world's waiting to see if the next round of talks can break the stalemate. This one's worth keeping an eye on, as it's shaping geopolitics and humanitarian efforts alike. Sticking with global conflicts, let's talk Gaza. On June 1st, NPR reported that Hamas pushed back on a new U.S.-backed ceasefire proposal for Gaza, which Israel had accepted. A top U.S. diplomat called the rejection unacceptable, and it's put a damper on hopes for a quick resolution. This comes after Israeli airstrikes in Gaza City on May 31st and protests in Tel Aviv demanding an end to the war and the release of hostages. The proposal aimed to pause the fighting and get humanitarian aid flowing, but Hamas's objections have stalled everything. The conflict's been brutal, with images of smoke over Gaza's hospitals and food lines in Deir al-Balah, painting a grim picture. Protests in Israel are heating up, with folks rallying against Prime Minister Netanyahu's government, pushing for a deal to free hostages held by Hamas. This rejection's a setback for diplomats, including those in the U.S., who've been working to broker peace. The war is fueling tensions worldwide, from anti-Semitic incidents here to debates in global capitals. It's also putting pressure on humanitarian efforts, with aid groups struggling to reach those in need. The human toll's heavy, and the clock's ticking for a breakthrough. For us, it's a reminder of how far-reaching these conflicts are. They shape everything from international relations to local protests. We'll keep watching to see if negotiations can find a path forward or if the stalemate holds. Back to the economy. Let's check in on Wall Street. On June 2nd, CNBC reported that the S&P 500 closed May with a 6% gain, its best month since November of 2023. The Dow and other major indexes also saw solid weeks, with gains of 1.6 to 1.88%. But Morningstar's June 3rd outlook warned that while the market's calm now, volatility is expected in the coming quarters. Tech stocks led the charge, up 10.3% in May, but some sectors like utilities and financials are looking overvalued. As of May 30th, the market was trading at a 3% discount to fair value, which is about average historically. Steel stocks got a boost from the tariff news, but broader concerns about inflation and tariffs are keeping investors on edge. For the average person, this means your 401k might be looking good, but don't get too comfy. The eye of the hurricane vibe Morningstar describes suggests rougher waters ahead. With tariffs, inflation, and global tensions in play, the market's a bit of a roller coaster now. If you're investing, it might be time to double-check your strategy. The big picture? The economy's sending mixed signals. Strong stock gains are great, but the threat of volatility is real. Keep an eye on your finances and let's see how the market holds up as 2025 rolls on. Let's end the main lineup on a lighter note with some sports. On June 5th, CBS Sports reported that the 2025 NBA Finals are set, with Oklahoma City Thunder facing the Indiana Pacers. Game 1 tipped off last night, June 5th at 8:30 p.m. on ABC. The Pacers punched their ticket by beating the Knicks, while the Thunder took down the Nuggets. It's a fresh matchup and fans are hyped. The Thunder coming in hot with a 112-105 win over Denver in the last playoff game on May 13th. The Pacers sealed their series against the Knicks with a 114-105 victory. Both teams are young, fast, and hungry, so this series could be a banger. Games are scheduled through June 19th with a potential Game 7th on June 22nd. This finals run is a big moment for smaller markets like Oklahoma City and Indianapolis, which don't always get the spotlight. Fans are buzzing about stars like Shai Gilgeous-Alexander for the Thunder and Tyrese Halliburton for the Pacers. It's a chance for new names to shine and maybe start a new rivalry. Whether you're a hoops junkie or just tuning in for the drama, this series is worth catching. Grab some popcorn, check the schedule, and let's see who takes home the trophy. Should be a fun ride. All right, folks, we've got a bonus story that's blowing up the news cycle. This week, starting around June 4th, the once tight alliance between President Donald Trump and billionaire Elon Musk turned into a full-on public feud, playing out on their respective social media platforms, Truth Social and X. What started as policy disagreements spiraled into personal attacks with major implications for both men and their agendas. It all kicked off when Musk, who left his role as a special government employee on May 30th after leading the Department of Government Efficiency, or DOGE, criticized Trump's One Big Beautiful Bill on X, calling it a disgusting abomination that would balloon the federal deficit. Trump fired back on June 5th in the Oval Office, saying he was very disappointed in Musk and claiming he asked Musk to leave after he opposed ending electrical vehicle subsidies that benefited Tesla. Musk didn't hold back, posting that Trump wouldn't have won the 2024 election without his support, having spent nearly $300 million on the campaign. Musk even escalated things by claiming, without evidence, that Trump's name is in unreleased Jeffrey Epstein files, a serious jab that threw a tepid response from the White House. The fallout's been messy. Trump threatened to cut government contracts with Musk's company like SpaceX, which could hurt programs like the International Space Station. Musk briefly announced he'd decommissioned SpaceX Dragon spacecraft, then backtracked. Tesla's stock tanked 14% on June 5th, losing about $150 billion in value. Meanwhile, some Republicans, like House Speaker Mike Johnson, expressed frustration with Musk, saying Trump was pissed off at him. Others, like Senator John Kennedy, acknowledged Musk's smarts but urged him to chill. The feud's also sparking memes and comments online, with even Kanye West jumping in on X, begging them to make up. This clash matters because it's not just two big egos duking it out. Musk's influence helped shape Trump's early administration, and his exit in this feud could shift the GOP's priorities, especially on spending and trade. For the average person, this could affect everything from tech innovation to government efficiency efforts. Plus, with Musk hinting at funding challengers to Republicans in 2026, the political ripple effects are real. We'll keep watching this one. It's anything but boring. And that's a wrap on this week's Just a Dude in the News on Just a Dude podcast. From tariffs to court cases, global talks to the NBA Finals, and a billionaire brawl, it's been a packed few days. Thanks for chilling with me as we broke it all down. If you want to dive deeper, check out sources like Reuters, The Washington Post, and the New York Times for the full scoop. Hit us up on Just a Dude podcast socials with your thoughts, and we'll catch you next week for more of what's shaping the world. Stay curious, stay cool, and I'll see you next time.